Hello and welcome to Scripting with VGZ. Today I am going to show you how to save player data. Remember, to save player data, you must have API services enabled. To do that, you must first publish your world. After you publish your world, go to Game Settings right here. Once you click Game Settings, go to Options. Right now, my Enable Studio Access to API Services is on. Keep it that way. Do not turn it off if you want to continue with this tutorial. To continue with this tutorial, we will have to go to server storage and add in a module script like shown, and we're gonna start by typing local player stat manager, and we'll set that equal to a null value like so. And next we are going to type local data store service equals game get service data store service. Now this is the reason why we need to have the API services enabled, because if the API services are not enabled, this will not work. Next we're gonna type local player data equals data store service get data store parentheses. We'll make a string called player data. This is actually adding the service into our game. Again, line 3 is retrieving it from the server, and line 4 is now that we retrieve the server, we will put it in our game. So that's what these two lines are. Next, we're going to define a script called local session data equals and make it a null value. Now we are going to make sure that the player data saves at an automatic interval. So to do that, we will type local autosave interval equals 60 seconds. So after each minute, the player data will save, and then when the player leaves the game, the data will be saved. Now that we're going to define a function. So to do that, we'll just type function player stat manager. That's what we'll name it. And we're going to set it to change stat player stat name value. Next, now that we define a function, we are going to define a variable within the function, and that's just going to be player user ID. To do that, we are just going to define a simple player user ID by doing player underscore and then the ID they were given at the very beginning when they signed up for Roblox. To do that, this will just be ... and then player user ID. Next, we are going to assert a session data function within the other function right up here called player stat manager. So we're just gonna make it a session data again. That's basically what type of is. And we're gonna make the session data a player user ID followed by a stat name. which is points in this case. But this just sets up for the session data to retrieve from the servers. So now that we type that, we're gonna make this equal to, like so, hang on, like so, and we're just gonna change it to type of value, comma, and we're just gonna make that, whoops, wrong type of parentheses here. 1, 2, right here. Yep, sorry about that. Got deleted parentheses for make this to work. Only one parentheses here. That's a typo on my mistake. Anyways, we are going to continue by telling the module script that there will be an error when the player data and the player ID does not match. So we'll just change it to, this is for debugging purposes again, because when you're playing the game, nobody's going to see this error, but it's going to print on the command line, and that's what this is for. And now that we do that, we are going to set up a conditional statement right here. Let's remove that for now. Remember to put in end at the end of the function. So if type of session data, whoops, not user settings, session data, and then we'll do the player user ID, and then the next will be again the stat name, which will be points, but again like that. If type of player user ID stat name equals number, we'll just set it equal to number. Then session, this part's the same from the last one, which is right here. So I'm just gonna copy and paste for the sake of saving time. Come on. Okay, my computer apparently does not want to copy and paste, so we're just gonna type it out. Again, player user ID. This part's just the same, so I'm just gonna type it. Let me get my parentheses here. No, not that type. Roblox Studio sometimes fails me. Stat name, the same thing, right here. And we're gonna set it equal to session data, parentheses, player user ID. Right here, we do not need a parentheses. That's my mistake, and make sure do not put parentheses there. And stat name again, but then we're gonna do something called a plus value, which is defined right here. There we go. And that's basically just gonna make it like plus the value that it originally had. Or else we do, if the player, say for example, does not earn any points, we'll just make this equal to the original value that the player had, which is very easy right here. So that closes up this function, and remember we got close up the last function, the function at line 12 right here. So we're just gonna type n, and that's it. But now we are going to use, what happened here? now we are going to use the pcall function to add the player to the session data table, which is basically a way of sorting, like Roblox sorting in data for the server to handle. Again, this is in server storage, so we gotta make sure that the tables are correctly inputted, and then it'll work. So to do that, we'll just type in local function set up player data parentheses set parameters to player, and then we'll do a set a variable called player user ID equal to the same thing up here. So this will be line 23 will be line 13. So this right here, I'm just gonna copy and paste over here. And this is the same. Now next we're gonna set up a success chart, aka a true false table. So if it's success, we'll p-call the function. Again, there will be a tutorial explaining how to use p-calls, so do not worry. But not in today's tutorial, obviously. We're gonna make this one, the p-call function, we're gonna make it return the output to us. That's easy. We'll just use player data get async. That just syncs the data to the player user ID, like so. And after we end this function, we're gonna do another if-then statement, just so that the server can check on itself multiple times to make sure that that the player doesn't lose any data. So we'll just do if session data player user ID. So if the player user ID is equal to the data given on the table, no, not that, then we will output the data. Or else, if that doesn't happen, if the player data is not retrieved somehow from the replicated storage, which is right up here, if it's not retrieved, then we'll have to use a different method, which is basically assuming that the player did not have any money to start off in the first place. So to do that, we'll just type, let's say, money equals 0. So again, this if-then statement is if session data, which is in the pcall function, if this is matching the one that the replicated storage, then just give the player the data. But if the session player data does not match, which is why this else is here, then we'll just default and assume that the player does not have any money or lost all of it. So that's why sometimes we do this, and you'll know that all of your points reset back to 0, because that's how it works. So now we're gonna type on. Oh right, I forgot something up here. At 926, I forgot to indent. I forgot to add in the so line. I'm really sorry here, but I forgot to add in this whole line. This is very crucial. We'll just have to indent everything else. It's called if success then. Again, I am so sorry that I did not adding this line previously, but this is all in condition if all the thing up here is successfully executed, because it might get stuck somewhere up here and then it will have another way to do the function. But this is if success then, and then the thing that I typed. So remember, at line 27, type if success then, and indent everything outwards. Okay, moving on, we have, remember, this little thing is its own if then statement, which is contained in another conditional statement, and now we're doing the else of the if success then. So if it's not successful for some reason, we're just gonna make a simple debugging tool. We're just gonna call it cannot access data store for player, so that when the developers check on the script, they'll just say that it cannot access data store and problem will be solved. Well, not for the player at least. But after this is all done, we're just gonna add an end right here, and this function will be closed. Next, we're gonna move on to wait, hang on. Okay, so next we're gonna make sure that the player, just as like a second line of defense, we're gonna make sure that when the player leaves the game, it also saves the player data, because sometimes all the way up here I showed you auto save interval is 60 seconds. Sometimes the player leaves before the 60 seconds is up and they will not be saved. So we're just gonna add in an extra layer of support right here, so that when the player exits, we will make it save. So this is what this is, and we're just gonna define a function again, and we're gonna make sure that this again, line 39 is equal to this line again, because each time when you define a new function, you gotta get the player user ID for everything to work. Why is it doing that? There we go. Like that. And now we're gonna use the save player data. Save player data. We're gonna use that function, and we're just gonna make sure that it's parented to the user ID, like so. And now we're just gonna end the function like that. So next thing we're gonna do is to make sure that the function for, again, right up here, we only defined autosave interval to be 60. We didn't actually make it so that after 60 seconds, it saves the player data. Now we're actually making the autosave work. So to do that, we'll just do autosave, and then we're just gonna make it while wait autosave interval. So while it's waiting for the autosave interval, we'll make it do for player user ID data in pairs session data. There we go. Basically, the in pairs just make sure that it saves in pairs. I'm not sure what else to describe it as. That's basically what it means. It just makes sure that the player data and so it makes sure that the player data is saved from when the player last joined this game, and it also makes sure that the player, like what the player earned for this game, is also saved. So that's why it's in pairs and it's not singly picking out one data value at a time. It does it so that both of them is saved at a time. Again, we are making fail-safes. So this is already done, but we're making another fail-safe, like right here, so that what the player will have another like backup plan. Right here is another backup plan, and now we're doing the autosave data so that just in case if the player accidentally crashes the game, when the player's inside the game, it will autosave for him or her. So that's it. We're just gonna indent this to be save player data. So again, after 60 seconds, it's gonna save the player data in pairs. And we're pretty much done for this section. So we're just gonna end that function. Next, we are going to do some background work. Again, this is not this. Why does it do that? This does not display for the player. This is like some background code, but it's important. Make sure that the autosave is actually working. Pretty easy. And next, we're gonna connect the setup player data to the player added event. So we're just gonna do player data, game.player added, connect. We'll just connect simply. Set up player data. Again, this is all background file work, but it's crucial for making all of this up here happen. Next, we're gonna make sure that the player exit is connected to the save on exit function. So basically, all of this is pretty logical right here. As you can see, after I type this, I'll show you. Save on exit. So right up here, we define save when enter and save on exit. Right up here, yep. So we define this function, save on exit. That just makes sure that the player data is saved. Now this actually makes it save on exit. Basically, it's saying that when the player is removed, make sure that this save on exit function is running. Same thing with here. When the player is added to the game, connect to set up player data, which set up some layer stats and all of that. So after that, we're gonna end it. This is since this is a model script, any model script people who use model script before will know that we're just gonna return this whole line to itself, and boom, we're done. That's it. Again, right up here, we define player stat manager. This whole thing is player stat manager. And at the very end, it just makes sure that this whole thing runs. I swear, if you forget line 57, you're gonna be in big pain. This might seem like the last one, but it's the most important. All of this will be for nothing if you do not type return player stat manager. Anyways, guys, if you enjoyed this video on how to save player data, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you want to see potentially more tutorials on Roblox scripting, and I'll catch you in the next one. See ya.